I'd like to go ahead and call our special call meeting to order, and we'll start with our roll call, please.
Nisha Fitzgerald Baker.
Present.
Gwen McKenzie. Here. Deb Porter. Here. Stella Richmond. Here. Dave Miller.
Here.
Vincent.
Here.
Anderson Olds. Brandon Harden. And Mary Top. What's your call?
So let's go ahead, we will come back to approval of our minutes and get our staff report. And Dee Dee's gonna share a little bit about a resource bank webpage. We kind of tossed around the idea of having resources identified by our buckets to make them easy to find. So I'll let Dee Dee share more about that, and then event table items also that we discussed so that we're prepared when we have community events and can continue to be a presence there.
Okay, so when you come to our page at the city website, we have all of the quick link ones if you want to go directly to one of our resources, and then I still included like the full list of resources that still, exist in Knoxville. So then I broke it up into each one: education, healthcare, ownership. What is missing here? What was added this week is there's going to be a link that says Black Realtors as well, and each of the cards will be here, and so that way you can click directly for a Black Realtor as well. And then we went, all the way down then full guides with everything, because we don't really do stuff, like food and utilities, things you can look for, but that's not for us. So we want to still be able to provide them with a place to go at the end. So this isn't live yet. This is supposed to be live just after we, like the look of it, the vibe of it, and then we go from there. But each of the links works. Each of the you take you to different places. And each of the blurbs, I make sure they understood what we stand for each of these pillars. And so that's where we are with that.
Can we know to look for? I get calls a lot about tutoring resources.
Men like mentoring,
Tutoring. So they're looking K through 12.
So under
Education, yeah, I'd like to see a couple of K-12 resources there. I love the look of it. It's exactly kind of the direction, at least in my vision, just to have that quick hit. But can we add to our, I don't know how many we already have printed, but a QR code?
Oh yeah, we don't have anything yet.
Okay, good. So the original little wrap cards or postcards we had, we could have something with a QR code that says resources.
Yeah.
So when we pass that out, people have it ready.
Once this is live and finalized, that'll be, we can make that. That'll be easy addition.
Do we, of course, we don't want to bombard the page, so I think.
And I made sure to include, space in case we need to add it.
Yeah.
We wanted to. And again, it's live. So throughout the year, organization doesn't exist or whatever it is, we can take it off. We can add somebody else, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I like to the board. It looks really clean. I like the holistic resources at the bottom. So, and also I like the diversity of the resources. So it's spread out across the community. That's my 2 cents. Feedback. Anyone else have anything to add or suggest?
Workforce equity. I'm wondering, because of a new program that's going to come in the next month or so, if the ministry should add it, because they're going to have a workforce development piece.
Okay.
Just a thought. And it goes live probably not next month in August, but I'm thinking next month.
Okay.
Oh, there's one.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, yeah.
I think we talked to them. So it's been waiting.
Okay. Make those changes.
Go to the back of the hill. So if we have mental health resources, that's something to bring up, because that is out of that bucket and committee. Really wanted to focus on that.
Mental health, yes.
If we can add mental health resources.
Right.
I'm wondering, I don't know if he's the only one in my community.
So,
Donna Mitchell, Covington, Council.
who did you say I should have for?
Donna Covington.
Donna Mitchell is Covington Council.
Covenant.
I'm sorry, Covington.
And then we go over.
So also, what we want to do is, because they're also in our community, Cherokee Hill, who's right there in the county. And then, you want to share something, keep it in mind, that's going to be coming.
Kids Help will eventually be here.
Oh, yeah,
They're actually doing work right now on this campus, and we'll soon have a physical location on the east side of campus, and later in the spring, but they are actually taking appointments right now.
I like adding some that probably, we don't look to my community, probably did as well, or just aren't aware that these services are available.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Okay. That's good presentations. It says I wanted to make sure that we all agree with. We created this resource bank to serve as a guide for individuals, families, and organizations seeking support, tools, and opportunities across 5 key equity areas. Our goal is to connect the community with existing resources to help uplift the people of Knoxville through increased access and empowerment.
Is it possible, and the answer is no, I'm fine with that. But they on our red card, I like how you have like the buckets. Is it possible to get those?
So instead of a link, you want it to be like a bucket?
Because the links being buckets, just,
We can make buckets. Let's see if we can make buckets. I don't mind.
What we might be able to do is to add the graphic that's already created.
yeah, graphic, yeah.
With the graphic, you know, something like the graphic and the silence, then you can just add that graphic.
Thank you for reading my mind.
Anderson, we haven't gone too far. We are just reviewing a website on Club that actually divides resources by our key focus areas, so that ease of access, easy to find. And the next thing we're gonna look at are event table items, so that we are prepared whenever an event comes up, we're ready to go.
Okay, so as far as that, I made, so I made up the idea, like a take one, leave one, because we kind of share a lot about who we are and what we believe in, but it's nice for us to hear from our communities what they believe in, and that kind of can help us steer as far as what we would like to do as a community. So these are called like take one cards, and they can take these right now when they believe their vision is for our community, especially if we're at an event, and it'll make them stop and talk to us at least. So I made these cards for that, and it's going to be kind of like a note card size. It's not really big, but it's made it a very simple graphic. And then of course we do events where there are kids.
No, just me.
Okay. I made Tanisha into, for an example, just for the meeting, I made her into a color page, and I'm going to make each one of you guys into a color page. Yes, so Tanisha gets to be the example, but yes. And then I'm not a fan of this one, but I can't fix it. But I will, I'll figure it out. But this is a very plain one of our logo. But that's the kind of thing for that. And then the last one is if we have small children, instead of writing your vision, you can draw your vision. And so that's for this. And I think we can have these kinds of things on the table, as well as our brochure that had all the cards that we made with our QR code from our website that we just did on them as well, for them to be able to take that resource. And so that works out for that.
Amazing job, Vicky. What I like about this drawing is we have those that might struggle with literacy a little bit or hesitant to share their thoughts, although they're good ideas, because they're afraid they're going to spell it or whatever. So we still open that option for someone to say they want to sit or big sidewalks or whatever the case, and they can just illustrate it for us. I like that.
So,
I mean, I know it's for kids, so we might.
but it, yeah, for sure, accessibility for sure is always the key. And so that is what I have for our resource tables, to be able to like have and order, to have them ready. Or technically our next one is supposed to be Shoes for School. Because it's your it's Shoes for School, which is August the 2nd. That would be our first time being able to table with these items. So we do need to decide if we're going to, order these things and have all these things ready, and I can have them done by then. And if we're going to do a Shoes for School booth, because that sign up actually ends in a couple of weeks.
So Dee Dee and team, let me throw this out here. We know Shoes for School is a big grant. And so are we suggesting that we also have some type of school supplies to give out as well?
That would be why I brought it to the group.
Yeah.
So I think what we talk about shirts.
We do have all those pins to give out that have our logo on them. We have like a whole lot of pins in my office. Yeah. I mean, I know you can more for school than pins, but.
And I'm trying to think about what we see that people have a lot of already, like bags.
Yes.
I think something probably cost effective is a folder with our logo on it.
Yeah.
That we might be able to mass produce because they go through folders quite often.
Yes.
I also thought if we're giving them this, maybe the small box, like the 8 crown box, and maybe we hand out the multicultural crown.
Are you the skin tone one?
Yeah. So those are some ideas, and then if you want to collect our shirt sizes, just so you have it, we just talked about having a shirt so we're easy to identify when we're at these community events.
So, yes, that is that.
Oh, we can email you the shirt size.
That would be great.
I might not want to say mine out loud.
Okay, that would be great. Please email me your Tiffany's.
These are the dangers of being a chairperson. I just need anything for the conversations.
So, I think that's all. Am I doing my whole thing?
No,
Okay.
we'll do this.
Yeah, if anyone has suggestions, if you brainstorm after you digest this, or you see something and you say, oh, this would be cool for Shoes for School, we'll do that. Maybe if you send out a sign-up schedule, so we can know who's gonna be on for setup and kind of divide it up. I'm usually there anyway, because multiple organizations are there that I support, so I can just
This year
rotate
to the
through.
stadium, it'll be fun.
Yeah. Yes, sure. So we have 2 sets of minutes to approve from January 13th, 2025, as well as April 14th. Do I need a motion for each?
So,
Or we do? All right. All right. Move to second. All in favor? Opposed? Perfect. So we'll jump down now to our subcommittee reports, and if we could get just an update from each focus area, starting with education. Denise Dillon.
Yes, so we hope
hope to have Dr. Dexter Murphy with us at the subcommittee meeting to give us a start on some of the data that we needed for some of the outcomes that we intended to have. He was unable to be at the meeting that day. So Cynthia suggested another person to help from her office to get some of that data. So we hope to have that before the next subcommittee meeting. But we did have some more focused conversation around the family engagement and parents engagement concerning the students. I think that would, while we weren't necessarily focusing on that from a data perspective, I do now think that that's something that we probably need to have some more focused conversation around, just given some of the outcomes that we've had in some of the summer programs for our students and some things that we need to focus a little bit more around. So I think that we will bring that back to the light for the subcommittee to have some more conversation about, along with some of the data that we hope to have prior to that next meeting.
And if you wouldn't mind making a note, I can't remember if I shared this note, but some time back, we thought it a good resource for parents to know the expectations for their child by grade level. Forgive me if I already shared it.
Yes.
But for parents to know, if your child is in kindergarten, or you can start at preschool, work with them on this, or they are expected to know this. I have found, particularly when we get to those grades where I think it's third for reading, there's another grade for math, the parents want, your child is making straight A's, and then all of a sudden they have to go to summer school.
Sure.
So if we can, and it's not a long list, it's usually like 5 key things that your child needs to know in that particular grade level and that's expected.
Okay.
And Dexter might be able to provide it with somebody in Knox County Schools.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Dee Dee's gonna share health update.
Okay, so the part they talked about was mental health, and that so far East Knoxville has become a one resource type place because they are not aware of what exists, which is what the resource bank is trying to solve. What continued to be talked about was how our community doesn't receive the resources they need because they don't think about it until after their day has wound down and they're not busy with the kids and the this and the that, and finally they realize that I haven't got myself together, but it's the middle of the night or the weekends and they're not available. So they came up with 1-2 options, maybe maybe a 24-hour option or a virtual option. I forgot my shorthand. So the community-based organization, that's what it stands for. They wanted it to be an option for people to, get their services paid for if they don't have health insurance, or we can figure out a way for that organization to hire the counselors who are graduating from UT to be able to get their service hours in order to go towards their degree. And that also can fight the brain drain problem that we continue to have here in Knoxville. People go to school here and then they just leave. So that can give an option for them as well. And then a big thing was youth. A lot of youth don't understand or know how to get access because they are growing up in families who also don't know how to get access themselves. So they wanted to be able to provide a list of services for our youth to be able to access. Community challenges that came up, or organizations are more challenge and competitive based rather than collaborative, which is how even if we all are on the same page, sometimes we don't want to work with each other for, in the grand scheme of the mission of our, what we should be doing. They suggested using maybe the juvenile court systems to partner with or find resources that exist already. I've learned, maybe as I went and looked it up myself, there are many resources that exist for youth. I didn't know they existed, and I just literally went through just a different avenue to find them. What they would like to do in potential action was an awareness campaign. And another thing that UT does is their College of Communication and Public Relations. Those seniors or graduates of the master's program, they search for projects in Knoxville to be able to do awareness campaigns. but they don't take just any ones. They take ones that they, make themselves look good for their final projects for their degrees. So offering, maybe creating an awareness around mental health in order, as what they call their capstone projects. And then that way, it, again, partnership and solves two problems at once. So, that's it.
Thank you. Andy, before we get to our next ones, any questions or feedback for Dean Stella or Dee? All right, so we'll move right in on ownership.
Absolutely, had an opportunity to meet with our subcommittee, and we had an opportunity to discuss the objectives and the strategies regarding the strategic framework, and we spent time talking about educational opportunities and supporting diversity in real estate and mortgage services as well. In regards to some of the educational opportunities, we felt that there was a need within the community to educate individuals, or at least create opportunities for education regarding their home values, and particularly in the wake of so much development. Sometimes you can have predatory companies come in and offer pennies on the dollar, and for people that are not aware that may be in a financial crunch or financial bind, sometimes they'll just go and sell their property. So we felt as though it would be advantageous to open up more doors of conversation regarding what your actual home value is worth. And we also talked about the importance of estate planning, and particularly in the context of our community as well. If there's not a plan in place, we know that people are transitioning all the time. But if there's not a plan in place, sometimes that property can be lost. Big grandmama spend a lot of time making sure that the property was taken care of, but not necessarily having a plan in place that our home can be lost either via tax sale or through the probate court as well. We also shopped around anti-displacement policies and the need for advocacy as well. As we know, as development comes, sometimes the taxes can go up. Sometimes our senior individuals in the community can get displaced. So I had a brief conversation about the need for anti-displacement policy. And then we also talked about the importance of professional opportunities, specifically within Region 5, just to let individuals know that there are realtors, there are mortgage lenders, home inspectors, appraisers, and developers that are willing to work with not only individuals looking to purchase a home or to sell a home, but also looking to mentor that next generation to say, hey, there are other opportunities, professional opportunities for you as well. And that could look like, specifically within the Region 5, what does it look like to shadow someone for a day that's in the profession, a mortgage lender or somebody that's in real estate, just so that they'll have an awareness to say, hey, I have other opportunities professionally that I can go after. And also creating possibly a field trip specifically for individuals that are within the high schools in Region 5 to shadow individuals as well. And we also brainstorm about the task force developing community events that engage community members and to gauge your interests as it relates to the investment areas, and possibly hosting a collaborative event or workshop over the course of the next few months and or year.
I love that. Now, do you all keep these notes, or who's kind of, okay. Back to the awareness campaigns, I'm thinking, wow, of course, those notes came out of health, but as we listen to the other reports so far, there's an awareness kind of element to that. And so when we approach you or whoever might support this, maybe we give them the other options as well.
So other things that we brainstorm. Yeah.
All right, and so small business development, Steve?
I have to defer to Ms. McKinney because I wasn't on it.
Good afternoon, evening, everybody. In the Small Business Development Subcommittee, we had 3 subcommittee members who were present, and a lot of the discussion was really focused on thinking about some of the challenges and the barriers are to small business development. So there was a lot of discussion around the need for educating people on the necessary steps to both develop and maintain a very structured, legitimate business instead of referred to as hustle. Because a lot of folks, have a service or some skilled trade that they're implementing, but it's not necessarily structured in a legitimate business format. So how can folks be educated on how to develop those legitimate businesses and really pursue their monetizing their passion and their skill. Also a lot of discussion around really needing to dig into and think about how to remove cost barriers to some of the needs that would come with legitimizing the business, and some of those could be related to education, to startup costs, to classes that may be relevant to starting up a business and understanding planning, financial management, etc. But also thinking about some of the testing and licensing exams that folks may need to legitimize their businesses, maintaining those licenses, and then also thinking about continuing education costs that may be associated with maintaining those licenses over a long term that would create a sustained small business. There was also discussion about what it may look like to partner with ACE and Science Academies so that young people at an early age can understand not only the business aspects, but also think about developing the skills, starting to go ahead and take some of the classes that may be necessary for them to pursue licensure, etc., and maybe be able to already be down the pathway of securing some of those licenses or even acquiring those licenses before they even graduate high school, and having the opportunity to engage in apprenticeships or internships or even employment early on so that they learn how to do the thing before jumping out and trying to start a business. And that was a big discussion too, is that a lot of times everybody wants to think about it from the aspect of wanting to be a business owner before really understanding what the work actually is. And so how can we create pathways and opportunities for folks to get the work experience so they understand the work before going into trying to own and operate a business. There was also discussion around the importance of prioritizing and creating pathways to support small business owners in their mental and emotional wellness, having some self-awareness too about kind of what your own skill set is, what your management style may be, what your actual capacity is, and so doing some of those both personal and professional needs assessments so folks understand kind of where they're starting and where they're working from, and then also thinking about how to build those networks of support, because one of the things that was mentioned is that for especially a lot of folks who are small business owners, that a lot of times folks in their families or their networks may not necessarily be in that same position, and so they don't have folks that they can relate to in that way, and really start to feel isolated around some of the challenges that small business owners have faced. There was also discussion around the need to really think about how to bridge some of the generational and experience divides in Knoxville's small business community, and the importance of mentorship and coaching. And I think one of the things that was important in that conversation was thinking about, like I said, both kind of that generational kind of maturity of age, but also maturity of experience. So you may have somebody who's a little bit younger, but they've been a small business owner for a longer time than somebody who's just starting out. But sometimes there's that divide between both amongst age groups, but also experience groups. So folks who've been business owners for a while, they have their network with each other and don't always necessarily engage naturally with folks who are maybe newer to the area or newer to small business ownerships. And so thinking about how to create some of those opportunities for mentorship and coaching across generations and experience difference.
Thank you. And finally, Workforce Equity Anderson.
Yeah, so our conversations really just more so continuing conversation on the first committee meeting. It was a two-person show. So more so just kind of getting acquainted with what we did professionally, just kind of what the tacticals is, what our plan, and just kind of what the subject is. So some of those updates were pretty much just kind of thinking about the barriers of entry. When for people to get to work, people are also growing their work. And then we also talked with Shirley a little more about the potential pipeline, just kind of trying to start kids at a younger age, realizing some of the conversations that are going on in other subcommittees, but how to create a pipeline and to kind of see it, be able to touch it and do it. And so as they're getting older, they have different options to think about outside of just a four-year university. You think about TCAT, you think about pedaling, and just think about all the different type of opportunities and skill sets. And so those are kind of major highlights of it. But look forward to kind of growing this subcommittee, with just kind of continuing growing those conversations.
Absolutely. So back to the campaign and awareness, maybe we need it divided. I would think, I'm just gonna throw this out there, maybe 12 and under, teenagers, and then of course, adults, so that we can make it age appropriate for understanding. I don't know that we have discussions with, and particularly in our high school, about the importance of home ownership and how to get there. And so just thinking about in this campaign awareness, sometimes that we can make it age appropriate.
Can I say something? Because this is really great information. I think the subcommittees have done some amazing work. Have we ever considered, and I don't know where we would find a place for this, but when we talk about voices from the community and from the community, as we're looking at how do we roll this out, feedback for someone to be, so here are the things that we want. What barriers do you experience personally that would prevent you from being able to do it? So again, and Anderson talked about transportation. So I think in gathering that kind of information could validate some of these things, or also could bring some additional things to light that we have not considered. And it could be, you could maybe check a box, it's an age group, kind of thing too, to see what's applicable, what barriers are applicable to certain age groups. Just want to toss it out there for us to give some further thought to.
So on the health subcommittee, the format that had a barrier section, I think if we're intentional about each subcommittee, because we wanted to make it kind of bite-sized so that we're not overwhelmed. But that could be a task in itself for one of the subcommittee meetings. Okay, we know what we want, why can't we have it? What gets in the way? And so I think for each subcommittee, and I think you even talked about a lot of it is lack of knowledge and access. But for each, and then each subcommittee also had a homework assignment of looking at the disparity report and the part that is just applicable to their section. So that might birth some discussion there as well.
Yeah, I'll interject too. So we did not talk about this last time, but the first meeting we did talk about transportation as a barrier. Because one of the things that we talked about was the absenteeism rate, which we wanted to get some specific data about that. But part of the issue for some of that absenteeism is the transportation piece. So we wanted to take a good look at the policy for Knox County schools. I'm not exactly aware of exactly what the policy says, but in some of that conversation that we were having in that first meeting, that's definitely one of the barriers for some of the students because some of them are walking. But when you add in weather into some of that stuff, that creates some challenges there. So yeah, barriers is definitely one of the ones that came up in the transportation piece for education.
All right, so now we want to kind of open up the opportunity for anyone to share announcements or additional business of the task force. This is up here. Any announcements? Y'all on vacation? All right, I will ask, so it's June, I did, and I saw Ms. Deb, several of us, at the Juneteenth event. Think it wasn't as easy to identify us because we didn't have on the shirt, or we didn't have a table, and that's okay. We just won't miss the next opportunity to do that. But the next thing that I'm aware of would be 8th of August. And how we can have a presence or be connected to any events. I think reaching out to Renee and Beck and just letting her know that the task force wants to partner or collaborate or offer assistance, volunteer, whatever that may be, so that we have a presence connected to that. I think last year we bought tickets, so we would need to know in July. We did, yeah. We did, maybe not, okay. So we would need to know who needs a ticket, because often with this particular group, we have tickets to the events that we want to sponsor. And that's okay. There might be a high school student or someone that we can sponsor for this event. But if you yourself need a ticket, let us know at our next meeting. Any other announcements or community events or activities? So in August so far, we have the 8th of August, we have Shoes for School. Anything else?
Oh, the sponsorship one? Is that what I do now?
This next.
No.
Oh, nice.
You good, you're good. You're coming up. Yeah, in fact, so let's move right on to sponsorship requests. So we will, Dee will share with us our current requests.
Okay, so we have 3. One of them is very, it's new. 2 of them are one is from the 100 Black Men of Knoxville. I think you have this one in there. They have their upcoming gala on July 12th, and they want us to maybe sponsor a table. But what was brought up was I don't think we'll have enough people to fill our table. So buying a 10-seat table might not be the option. Maybe we can do like an ad instead, or just make a donation to the event, and then that way we still can do something.
And I will add, so the city of Knoxville also was asked to sponsor this event, and we have purchased a table. Our table, the event is in Lenore City this year, and so we are still working to fill our table. So if there are folks from the task force who are interested, I think they've already expressed an interest. The event is on July 12th. Let me know. I'm filling those seats kind of on a first response basis. So if you know you're interested, let me know. And I can also shoot you an email. But, you know, kind of, it's all kind of the same kind of money. And so to maybe purchase 2 tables when we're having a challenge really one, may not be the best move, but as Dee said, if they have ads available that we can purchase, because the task force could purchase it specific to the task force, or some other way that the task force may be, so based on you all's interest and support. But I did want to make you all aware that if there are folks who are interested in actually attending, that we may be able to accommodate that, because we do already have a table.
And so they're to email you directly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So you see it right after the meeting or whatever.
And then the other thing,
July
I definitely would like an ad, regardless, just so that in that visibility of our name. And I think you all have worked up a graphic before for us, so, okay.
Yeah, I got this.
Can y'all remind us how much in resources we have available to us?
Sorry, I don't have it right off the top of my
Ballpark.
head, but
I would say from 30 to 35,000.
yeah,
We
we have
just did
to
sponsorships.
Yeah.
And then July hits,
In July, so, yeah.
and we were, obviously, did it a line item.
Yep.
Okay. Dee?
Okay, so we're gonna just do an ad. Is that what you want me to respond back to them? Okay. and I'll get that done for us.
Before we move on, for the ad, is there a certain amount that you guys want to
Yeah.
cap it at, just so that we don't have to?
I'll read you a full page. I can imagine that that's a ridiculous amount.
Okay.
So we want to say up to $500?
Yes. Yeah. And then we need to, are we voting on each of these individually or?
Yeah, probably $65 amount.
So then we would need a motion for our support or level of support of the 100 Black Men Gala. So the motion is
The motion would be to purchase an ad for the ad.
move to second. All in favor? Opposed? Can you go to our next one?
Yes, ma'am. So the second one is for the Knoxville Area Urban League, the Education Department. This one is for a scholarship. So they have two, and they're for two separate things. This one is the opportunity to provide 5 $1,000 scholarships to the recent NAS scholars. For this year, I don't know if you guys know what NAS is, National Achiever Society. They would like for, kind of like what Vulcan does or Southeast Bay does, they kind of give the money and the criteria to be able to give to scholars. So this would be something like that from us.
So that it would be a brand opportunity.
It would be, you receive a scholarship from the task force, and I think that would be a wonderful way to continue to elevate our visibility. But I believe our education side of the task force, that pillar, isn't really like tapped on as much, and I think this would be a great way to at least start it. Maybe it could be like an annual thing that we give away, maybe 10 scholarships a year or something of whatever. But I think this would be a good way to first, because none of this exists for us. So I even came here and I looked and researched a bunch of different companies because we give a criteria for said scholarships. And I even came up with a criteria for us. That way we can start a way and then maybe even go from there. But I thought the criteria could be 3.4 GPA, because you need a 3.2 to even be an NAS scholar. A 500-word essay regarding a topic. I guess we can pick something like racial barriers or how adversity shapes your ambition and purpose, something like that, like a 500-word essay with a specific topic. Submit your transcript and then proof of enrollment into a institution for the fall of 2025. The residents of Knox County. And so this is the one that I don't know as far as if we're allowed to only offer it to Black students, but that is an option. I've seen that there are some scholarships out there, obviously, that have that requirement, but I don't know if we wanted to do that as well. But that's kind of what I wanted to do as maybe like a first time criteria and see how that goes and what kind of like response we get from those students.
So the tricky part is, I think we can do the NAS. The part about, it's still up in the air about offering it just to a particular demographic, because the schools can't distribute the money. So if we were to send a check to, now we give a check to the students directly, that's money that we're allowed to do that. But if we send it to the university, they're having some challenges in being able to distribute that.
So I think it would be like on behalf of the task force, the Urban League presents you with this scholarship. We can't do, I heard we can't do the race thing.
So I would say I think we need to stay away from that piece of it. But maybe part of the criteria would be maybe it's first generation student, college student, or it could be maybe single parent. If we wanted to get into the weeds a little bit more. And I'm gonna not vote on these. I'm in favor of it because full disclosure, I am one of the co-chairs of this committee and board member.
So the NAS, can we just have a NAS scholarship
Yes.
offered by the,
Yes.
provided by or sponsored by the African American Education?
I'll be honest with you, kids do get scholarships. And I do think it might be nice if we wanted to decide, because if we're about generational wealth building, to me, a first generation college student or to a single parent.
Or maybe an income constraint, right? If this task force was about poverty, maybe it's got to be a certain level of household income.
So you have to look at financial.
Yeah, when Ken and I were just talking, you could also look at, somebody who comes from
A geography.
specific.
That's
a good idea.
Something like that.
I really like
Which is,
that.
that's how we do our fiber, our free fiber. Kind of made it, kind of geography.
Kind of based on-
Okay.
But Dee, sometimes we see a lot of some of the same kids in the NAS.
For sure.
Majority of the scholarships.
But now NAS is citywide, correct?
Hmm.
NAS is citywide, right?
It is, yeah, so we actually get
Not
talked
in Adams
about.
County, but it's
Well,
Adams
yeah,
County.
so I think the geographic area, demographic area is a great idea as well, because we're formed because of a demographic area, geographical area. So,
How quickly do we need to make a decision?
Well, we just need to vote on if they're allowed to get the money, and then I can make the criteria, and with, Stella,
yeah, could you circle back with?
yeah, and with the criteria as far as what it is, we just need to vote on whether we're okay with providing these scholarships or this fund to the Urban League sponsoring this one.
I'm moving to sponsor the scholarships because it's in line with the mission of the task force.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I am abstaining as well on the board.
We have one,
Two.
two.
abstain.
Okay.
Alright, and then there's one more from the Urban League. They were actually picked out of all of the Urban Leagues in the country. They made the final six for their, it's called the CASE competition, Youth Leadership Summit. You can see on the back her whole, description of what they do, but it would help cover what NUL, which is the National Urban League, does not cover for the students who left to travel to Ohio in order to compete in this competition. They did very well last year, and so this would be able to help fund those and really give them, because sometimes last year they also weren't able to bring everybody because everybody couldn't afford to come, and that did kind of hurt their ability. So this year they're trying to make sure all the kids can come, and yes, so they're asking for, $5,000 is the amount that they asked for.
And how many students is this?
10 total students, 8 students to staff, or 2 adults. I can't remember which one it is.
Is it, I think it's 5,000 total?
For this one?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, this one to me feels, it's a wonderful cause, great event. This feels a little off mission to be paid for travel-related expenses for, again, worthy, but this one doesn't feel right in our strike zone to me, like one person.
So I'll just kind of toss in what I'm thinking. When we think about equity and access, the students have done so well. And so to be chosen nationally and there be a barrier, because an access barrier,
It's well said.
I'm kind of leaning in favor of that they earned it, but they don't have the financial means to access it. And if we can,
Do we think these are kids that would literally not need to go, if not for this support?
That I would have to talk to Carly about. All I can go off with what she gave here. I don't know if we would know more, but I'm not sure about that this year. I just know when I worked it, that happened last year.
and historically, I think there have been kids who have been left out
She
of the
had,
trip.
she had to live and leave some behind because they just had to divvy up what was given from anyone.
Well, that's not right.
And they were, I think they placed lower than they were now. Everybody could, in her, so this year she's
I
trying to.
mean, It's 6, right? 16 kids go?
8 kids, 2 adults.
No, out of the country.
Oh, 16, yeah, and there's 96 urban leagues, and they make the top.
I mean, I want to cheer them on. That's pretty amazing.
They're doing good. And theirs this year is very, she shares a snippet of it. It's definitely very innovative. And I think that they have a really good opportunity to win this year's competition.
Okay.
And having the extra funding that will definitely help. I remember last year they were having to eat at McDonald's with the few that they had and not be able to practice because they have to do just certain things that are not able to do during the competition.
When is the competition?
July, I think it says the date of the event is July 17th.
And they're gonna have a link for a live stream to be able to watch the competition.
Are you going to reach out?
I always get.
Let me get, I need the sidebar. I need a donation request that I can. Say, we have, our new budget should start as well. If we go all the way there and have to eat it down, even though we do what we have to do to make it work, but if we can, I had that same issue with the robotics team.
Yeah.
It was just, they earned it, they did all the right things, and watching other kids eat out, go to the concession stands, and we had packed sandwiches, just didn't feel right. And I was like, girl, no, this is the last time that this happened. So let's see what we can do to not only for us to provide support, but if you have access to others that may be able to offer any kind of support, let's do that. So we do need a motion to support the Youth Leadership Summit. All right.
And they did provide a link for us if you wanted to watch them, and I can send this link out to you guys individually if you want to watch what they're going to be presenting on in Ohio.
I don't need the link, but I'm nosy. I'm just curious about what they're going to do, so I would love to see it. Okay, so did we get a motion?
Yeah,
Have one
motion to
attention,
support.
motion, second? Second. All right, all in favor? Aye. Okay, any opposed? Great.
Abstaining.
Abstaining.
3 abstentions.
3.
Sorry.
Okay.
Can we make a motion? I'm sorry.
I do.
So, okay, thank you.
And I think Anderson second. All right, so sponsorship application questions, Dee Dee, you're still on.
Oh, I'm still on. Oh, so what we were working on at the very beginning here, this kind of got away from us, so I've been making it up as we go. Things that we wanted to include in our original form before it's gotten to this version. This is I made it very plain and easy for anybody to, use. But if we wanted to add rules, if we wanted to be able to provide receipts, if we wanted to, any of that kind of thing, we never really got around to being able to discuss and vote on if that was something that we wanted to do, as well as, and just, anytime we do a sponsorship request, I do send out a post-sponsorship request, like survey, questionnaire type thing. And the ones that we've supported have sent some back, and they sent back photos and, thank yous and all that kind of stuff. So it has been working out pretty well on how we've done it without the vote. But if there was anything we wanted to exclude, that kind of thing, this is kind of literally what all they go off of. So there's no other rules other than these. So we wanted to add some, that would be what we're talking about.
I think the one thing I would be interested in, and I don't have my grant, so we're looking at.
That would just be a response.
Yeah,
This is the form.
okay.
Yeah.
But it's the same form, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I would be interested in the date the organization started. So, kind of how long it's been doing this.
The grant application, which is a different,
Oh, I'm sorry. I ain't thinking grant.
no, well, I think your suggestion is still relevant regardless. I was just also thinking, the grant also does ask folks to explain how the grant ties to our mission. I think it talks about the 5 areas and so forth. This is event-based,
Yeah,
but we still might want to question in there about talking about how their organization
I saw.
relates to the mission, which the introduction to this does, but that might be.
So you would like to add a question that asks that?
It might be helpful to me. We all know, I think, these 2 organizations, so it wasn't as much of an issue here, but that might be helpful.
I agree, to put that constraint and consideration in on the front end, so that will help us refine some of our decision making.
Are we asking how the organization ties to the task force or the event that was going to be
I would
sponsored?
think the organization, right, conceptually, like if the event is to raise money to support the organization, I'm probably not as worried about how the event connects as what the mission of the organization, how that connects. That's my own personal view.
Sorry, you can use it.
Kind of. I'm thinking event also, for instance, let's take the YWCA. The organization definitely aligns a lot of what they do to our mission as far as education. But let's say the event is going to Dollywood. And maybe that is access, I don't know, recreational access, but I'm just, so in this, do we have a description of the organization?
Of their organization.
So I think I'd like to see that. So a description, we can make a determination.
Organization.
You asked them to describe the event, so
Yeah.
it's hard, but certainly talk about something that was.
Yeah, but we might want a description of the organization.
A description of their organization, like adding like the mid, okay.
And I get it because, and y'all can just feel free to join the discussion, but if we have to make choices, and we often do, if we have an organization that has an ongoing commitment to one of our buckets versus, I know we struggle with this on some of the evaluation committees for sponsorships. Let's say there's one, and it's a great organization, it's horse therapy. They might have an event that we can kind of tie in, but that's not their ongoing mission. And if I had to choose, I'd like to choose an organization that has ongoing support or alignment with what we're trying to do. So that's kind of just something to consider as we think about that modification.
I'm just gonna add a suggestion maybe that to consider to, along the lines of this conversation, maybe help with ease of denotation and amount of content. We don't wanna make it like too much like.
We can do a drop down.
But yeah, have a drop down, or just like listing, and you can select all that apply, right? If you wanna.
Or areas of focus.
Yeah, just kind of bullet out the areas of focus that are, of importance to the task force, and then they can select all that apply.
That's a great.
And there could maybe be, if you wanted to have a little section where they can, add the mission or describe the organization, but instead of them trying to write 4 paragraphs about how they follow to just click the box.
And I believe our committee that evaluates those,
I think we came up with some good wording on our Zoom call
Yeah.
the other day for that one form. So, yeah.
Okay. I can add that.
all right, so if you could just give us a quick summary so that we can get a motion for the amendments to the sponsorship application. So what do you have? What is your summary of the amendment to the modification?
I'm going to add, how does this organization tie to the task force? You can select which of the areas of focus that it goes to.
And if you already have working in city? Like task force
Well, like
alignment?
language should be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I-
I can't say like, equity, but it's.
Yes.
But,
Okay, that.
Anything similar to the language in the application.
yeah. And then when did the organization start? Question, and adding describe your organization or your ongoing mission? Question. Those are the 4 that I.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on something that we've not talked about yet, but we have come across our table multiple times. One organization being able to make multiple requests for multiple programs or opportunities that they offer. Do we want to put a cap on the amount of requests, whether that's a number, like a max amount of $20,000 a year? Or is it, you can only submit a request twice in one fiscal year? Like, I think that would need clarification on, because in previous conversations, if people didn't receive a grant, they might want to go to sponsorship grant and just ask for four different $5,000 requests, so that's the same amount as a grant. And I think that's kind of skirt around the grant process, so I think that you guys should maybe designate or denote what we need to clarify on sponsorship versus grant funding.
And Ms. Tiffany, I think I was the one that had brought that up
Yes.
last time, so, or time to.
Yeah,
Right now,
months ago.
Yeah.
Right now, we do have a limit of 5,000.
Yeah, but how many times do they
That's
ask?
What happened?
Around time, yeah.
Did you have?
Because, gosh, I think we said less than the maximum for the grant, which is, that was around
Yeah.
10 or something like that.
Yeah, the grants run the amounts of $10,000 or $20,000, so the max is 20.
So
Two
two
five,
sponsors,
right,
yeah, two sponsors.
right, no more.
Per fiscal year or
Per fiscal year.
per fiscal year?
Per budget, yeah, I think that's fair. We want to kind of spread our resources, and that will also eliminate some of the pushback we got where people are applying multiple times, someone else got it, and then, it's easier to justify that you got your piece of the pie, and then make sure you get another piece of the pie, but we want to kind of give the pie up. So, I hope somebody's been keeping up with what the motion is, but we do have a summary of the amendments. One is that we're gonna add, organization, their, origin or start date. We're going to ask them to choose from a drop down the task force alignment to their organization. And we are, the other piece was the bid, that's optional, right?
Describe your organization.
Well, we don't necessarily need that now. What we
Right.
want is just the drop down.
Okay, take that out. And then, the last thing, as far as the amendment, I will add where it says requests can made up to $5,000. I'll also add, each organization is only allowed to apply 2 times per fiscal year.
Yeah.
Do I list the dates, like our fiscal year is blank to blank, or do I just say per fiscal year and keep it up?
We would have to.
Yeah, you probably
So moved.
Can I, like, before you make a motion?
all in favor? No.
One second. Looking, you make a really good point. What if an organization applied for and received a grant? Can they also apply for a sponsorship?
For something different.
For something different?
This morning, then?
So, one of the pieces that we have to remember is we get to vote or consider, we get to approve. And so I think we have I wouldn't keep them from doing it because I hate for some magical event to come across or someone come up with something very innovative and they've already received a grant and we pass on it. But if it is something similar and we see someone who is doing something, we have an opportunity to kind of use our discretion there. So I wouldn't exclude them from applying, but I think that would just be a part of our consideration as far as,
We reserve the right, I would think.
And I think the hope would be that maybe these, making them aware of this and let folks be more judicious about their applications because you realize that you only have a couple of shots. And so make it the thing that you actually really need money for because you may not be able to come back and ask 6 times.
right.
Now you can make a motion.
So moved. Moved to accept the recommendations.
Second.
All in favor?
No abstentions.
All right, so, we need to have a bit of a discussion about our bylaws and possible changes. We won't need to vote at this time, but one of the things we have considered, and I wanted to just emphasize the importance, we are adults, we all have lives obviously outside of this, I think we have shown from the onset extreme commitment to launching this task force and figuring it out. Meeting attendance, what I wanted to share was our expectation, the best we could, was always once a month. Although we are meeting quarterly, in between those meetings are our subcommittee meetings and things like that. So if you are, and I think you've done a pretty good job so far on a subcommittee meeting, that's an alternate. That is why we moved our big meeting, our task force meeting, to quarterly to make room without overwhelming us for these. That being said, I think we need criteria to think about meeting attendance, and so we had some discussion on sharing from the people. And I think the question would be, what is the maximum? So we meet 4 times a year. Not counting subcommittee meetings in this, but 4 times a year as a task force. How many times is it? You have to show 50% of the time, 75% of the time, and you miss one. We just need to have some discussion around that as we think about filling our seats as people go on. What do y'all think?
I will say also that Christina played with some language. It's actually in our bylaw packets on page 5, section 12. Just kind of give you guys an idea of what we're talking about.
Page 5.
That section 12 is in blue.
So my question when I read the language was, maybe this is some of what was structured in there. It seems reasonable, like if we're on the task force, we ought to be here. But then doesn't give a lot of flexibility. So I focused on the terms unexcused, and I focused on the sort of concept that may be removed. Yeah, think about like Brandon, he's just had a lot of conflicts. I'd rather have him on the task force than not. He or many of us may not have made 75% of the meetings. Does this just give us the flexibility to vote to have somebody removed, or is it sort of an automatic knockout? If one of us misses 2 meetings a year, I'm probably not wildly supportive of this. But if this is sort of like, if we have a task force member that's not engaged, they're not showing up, this gives us the mechanism to remove them. And if it's that, I'm all about it.
So there's kind of 3 pieces, and you've definitely identified 2. The one being excused or unexcused.
Yep.
You know, is this somebody who's just not responding to
Correct.
meeting requests and just not showing up, and we don't know where they are?
Yep.
Versus is it someone like Brandon who legitimately, because of his work schedule,
Yep.
couldn't make a flight, whatever that is?
Yep.
The may be deemed non-compliant.
Yep.
We have that flexibility.
Yep.
And then, if there is that proper cause, the task force would then have the option
Correct.
to vote to recommend removal.
That's what it looked like.
This task force would never have the authority to do removal on its own. It would always have to be confirmed with council. So those were kind of the 3 little pieces of flexibility embedded in there.
That makes sense.
But we did put the attendance rate at 75 because we did account for the unexcused absence, forgiveness. We did leave that flexibility in there. And then just the change of circumstances. I mean, now that it's quarterly, you all have a lot more to do on your agenda every time, and the attendance is even more important.
And I would add, not only that, if you are members of the different committees, investment, executive, and you make those meetings, and then of course you make, you're over a subcommittee and you make those meetings, then I think that's where the flexibility should come in.
Right, sure. And of course, those folks who are engaged in those subcommittees, they're going to be in communication with us, and so we know that they're engaged and, participating in organizations and as a commission, so.
So I agree with all of this. I think for me, from my perspective, it was more about will. Those, no call, no show type of thing. Those, and it's okay. Sometimes we become disinterested or our passion moves in a different direction, and that's fine. I just don't want to hold a seat if someone has decided that they want to move in a different direction or they can't commit. I think for each person, I know we've had conversations like, you want to be on this committee, we want you on it, because that's a part of it, right? We're going to get the most productive outcomes for those that want to do it, and we understand life happens, particularly as an adult. But for me, it was more about those that just seemed like they lost interest and giving us a pathway to have a conversation about that.
Just out of curiosity, because you alluded to this, so does the task force have the ability to remove a member That doesn't change. So that essentially becomes a recommendation to the mayor to work.
To
Council's the
city
only one
council.
that can appoint her.
I got you. Okay.
And even then, council can say, well, we don't,
Right. Yeah.
don't want to go there.
Yeah. Okay. In writing to the Knoxville City Council.
Right.
Okay.
And that is kind of based on how the organization was formed, you know, our ordinance from the county. We have some committees and task force where it is absolutely, if you do not make this number of meetings, you are off, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, we could really want you on, but ordinance and or state law says you gotta go, you know, there's no meetings.
Right.
And we don't really have any flexibility in that, but because this is a council created task force and council appoints the members of this task force, and they would have to vote to remove the person, so it was absolutely a recommendation of the task force.
Y'all know I never ever reinvented the wheel. This language is modified from BZA and planning commission. I started with that and then just tweaked it based on the fact that we're now quarterly. Attendance is more of an important issue.
So on page 2, the other amendment, obviously, or the changes, making it quarterly and at 5:30. We've already covered the attendance, the other change that.
This is just interesting to me. I mean, technically, section 3 gives us this power to remove somebody as well, right? I mean, so you're sort of, one could argue it's not explicitly needed because we already have the language to do it, but I'm still in favor of this section. Well, you do have this removal of officers thing, so one could argue good cause for removal shall include but not be, that's an officer.
Officers, yeah.
Never mind.
But we are going to, no, I'm just trying to be thorough, because when we started this from ground zero, we had a lot of language, a lot of considerations, and so just being thorough, and I can appreciate, we'll continue to be that. It's easy to look over something when you looked at it a lot. So the other change is just that the officers will now just be chair, vice chair, and secretary without the need of an assistant secretary. I'm assuming that's okay, okay with everyone. And then, is there anything else to know? No, okay.
We'll talk about it, I think,
In July.
And in the meantime, if y'all will let me know if you have anything else that catches your eye or that you think you need to vote on, and to let me specifically know, I'll loop in everybody else or vice versa, if you want to reach out to me or in role with me.
Do bylaw approvals require like a supermajority or simple majority?
No.
Somewhere.
All right, so next. We have some seats to fill. And so we will look at reappointment and appointment nominations. Tiffany, if you can kind of, or Lakeenya, guide me through what's necessary for this section.
Yeah, so I think it'd be easier to do the reappointments. I think we could maybe just make one motion to reappoint members Glenn, Dave, and Anderson. Do a motion, a second, and a vote.
Sure.
Obviously, if not, of those individuals. And then we can move on to the new nominations. So, Stella,
I make a motion.
yeah, second.
All right, we're all, all in All right, so then, moving forward to nominations, we have, 2 individuals who have, expressed, at least, and you can see their resumes, a really sincere desire to support the work, but also have been a part of the work in their own respective either professions or other organizations they work with. That would be Dr. Craig Pickett Jr. and Shantae Southwood. And so, we would need a motion and a vote to accept these 2 nominations as new members of the task force, and then we will work to kind of bring them up to speed. I think both of them are pretty familiar, but we will make sure that they have the other information that they need. So,
Discussion.
yeah, if there's a discussion, questions, or anything as far as those two.
I had the opportunity to hear Dr. Craig Pickett Jr. at a meeting in Nashville, and I think you will be a phenomenal addition to the team, and I think that he will give amazing insight to the health subcommittee as we continue to fortify that as well. And after reviewing the resume of Ms. Southwood, I know her experience at Oak Ridge National Laboratory in conjunction with the KDB will also help us fortify our workforce equity subcommittee as well. So I'm in favor of adding them on board.
And we talked about some of the pieces and expertise we're missing in that HR space. Would be helpful. Any other discussion? No, I just said any other discussion. I'm looking at you.
They were talking about how it printed. For some reason, it was opened up in Google. That's why I said to you all electronically.
That was my vision.
I was like,
Can you smell toast?
yeah, it was crazy. And I didn't want to retype your resume.
So a few announcements. First of all, thank you all so much.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Perfect, y'all, I'm so sorry. Where I was going, was just to appreciate your time, and you got a lot done today in a very, I think, efficient way. Didi, I want to thank you for your organization and efficiency and way in which you present. It made it really easy for us to review, have questions and discussion, and be able to vote, so thank you for that. We do have a few announcements. Our next meeting is July 14th at 5:30. Note the location will be at the Urban League. So the Knoxville Area Urban League, July 14th. I'm sure we will get a reminder, text, or phone call, and those things. We do anticipate the investment committee meeting on August 11th. So if you can clear your calendars to attend, we might have some requests and things to look at, particularly as we will be at the beginning fiscal year, because we do start in July.
Yeah, and this will be under varsity grant, window that will be open this fall.
And then, are there any other announcements by task force members? No?
Did I hear someone say that we're a line item in the budget this year? I mean, what?
Yeah.
Just for, okay.
Did we have anyone sign up for public forum or to speak? Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you for showing up. I always appreciate when people express their interest by showing up, so appreciate that. We are now prepared to adjourn. I need a motion. No. We are adjourned.